Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. I am Sid Part 2, and I am adjusting my camera very slightly. There we go. So we got a pretty good sized week of comics here, and I think this will be the last week I'll be broadcasting from the apartment. So the move is still going on. Things are moving forward with that, so I should be out of the apartment pretty soon here. Now, before we get started on stuff for the show tonight, I want to remind everybody about Comic Book Club. The newest episode is scheduled, and there's currently a vote going on for that. So I'll leave a link in the description, but you can vote for what we'll be covering in the next episode of Comic Book Club. The choices are X-Men, God Loves, Man Kills, Iron Man Extremis, Punisher Max Kingpin, and Black Panther, Who is the Black Panther. So those are your choices. Please go to the voting video and vote. I'll be sure to leave a link in the description for everyone to use. And if I don't, someone remind me. But yeah, that should be a good time. If you don't know what the Comic Book Club is, it is a monthly live show where anyone who has a legal copy of the book we're discussing can join the discussion. All you need is a microphone and headphones so you can take part. Webcam is preferred, and an internet connection. You can be there. So I hope we have a good turnout this time around. We're on Marvel books this month, so should be a good time. Let's see. We got Jake Carlson here live. He says he's made it, but he still has homework. Dude, what is more important, homework or watching some guy on the internet talk about comics? The choice seems pretty obvious to me. Yeah, so just throw your homework away, feed it to an animal. If you got a dog, feed it to the dog. All that jazz. Remember that, kids. Terry's here. He says, I'm falling asleep. It's nearly 1 a.m. Well, let's not bore you any further. Let's go ahead and talk about what we'll be talking about this week. So this week, we've got Captain America number 3, Predator Hunters Volume 2, number 2 or 3? No, number 2. Sandman Universe The Dreaming, number 1. SuperSons, Adventures of the SuperSons, rather, number 2. Batman number 54, Cosmic Ghost Rider number 3. We'll talk a little bit about DC Nation issue 4, and then for Trade Talk this week, we have the very first volume of Mike Mignola's HellBoy. I cannot say that dude's fucking name. Mignola. I'm just gonna go with that. Mike Mignola's HellBoy Volume 1, Seeds of Destruction, the original series of HellBoy. So plenty of stuff to talk about tonight, and we'll get right into it. Can someone phonetically spell Mignola's name, Mignola, in the comments, please? Because I cannot fucking say his name to save my life. I don't know what's wrong with me. It's like I did the same thing a couple weeks ago, and I was talking about an Alien comic he did the art for, Mignola. Thank you, Manos, for that. So Zorro Fan Productions just got here. Is wanting to know what he missed. Nothing. We're not even into our first book yet. It's a big turnout. Robert Emmett's here as well. Apparently Tom King murdered all his feelings, and we'll get to that. Okay, so let's start out with Captain America number 3. So I'm having this thing with Coates' run on Captain America that is usually a bad sign, in that until I pick up the issue and start reading it, I've completely forgotten everything that has happened before in the previous issues. And that's bad. That his story is not sticking in my brain is a problem. Now, it's a complicated thing to talk about because obviously with comics monthly between chapters, it's hard to remember every detail of the story, and that's what the catch-up page is there for. But and obviously I read a lot of comics, so I'm not going to remember every detail. And you know, I do this show live, and people leave comments after the fact that are like, "Oh, you forgot this." I'm like, "Yeah, of course I forgot it. It's a fucking monthly series. I'm just going to miss stuff, and I'm reading so many books." But when like I was sitting there looking at the cover of this in the store, I'm like, "What's going on in that book again?" That's worrisome. And so I read this and I was like, oh yeah. And then I put it down and went on to my next book. But I'm like, that's really not a good sign, right? It's just, it's so unimpactful on your head. Like, he mentions that the Black Panther, or they mentioned the Black Panther team up going on in this. And when we finally get to T'Challa, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. T'Challa was at the end of the last issue. It's just not very memorable, which is disappointing because like I really liked the first issue. I felt like that first issue was touching on a lot of ideas that were going to be really interesting. And I thought Coates's style of critique would be a lot better suited to Captain America than it was to Black Panther. And I mean, it's interesting to see them working together here. There's a line here that I did find interesting. They're talking about this, you know, secret group of blah, blah, blah plot. And T'Challa goes, Wakandan intelligence indicates that Stain, the bad guy, is in close communication with someone in the American government. And Steve Trevor says, I wish I weren't so surprised. I should start expecting this stuff. And then T'Challa reassures him, no, you should not. You must never expect such things from your own people. The day you are not surprised is the day Captain America dies. And I thought that was a really, really good line. I thought that moment in particular was really intriguing. So the Coates is taking on a lot of the ideas of American exceptionalism and patriotism pretty head on here. This issue starts with Cap talking to a guy in town who's like life had fallen on some hard times, and his whole town indeed had fallen on hard times. But then something changed, and that was Hydra taking over the world or the country. I act surprised, but I already know. Hydra fixed the schools, took out the drug pushers, got everybody health care, brought back the jobs. Washington had forgotten about us. Flyover country, they said. And look, I didn't like Hydra's methods, but they kept us safe, and when they was gone, whoa, buddy, I thought we was gone too. That's when the Power folks showed up. Yep, Power Enterprises picked up right where Hydra left off. Kept the schools up, the mine going, the people feeling good. Yep, it's morning in America, bud. Real America. So that, coupled with the line about being surprised, or maybe he shouldn't be surprised, about corruption within the American government, is an interesting juxtaposition of ideas. How to approach this one. I mean, like, it's not that I don't like Coates's writing. It's that something about it just doesn't connect with me on certain levels, I feel. And so while I like things about this, I'm left a little like, I'm not so sure. The thing about fascism that's nice, and that's a hell of a way to start a sentence. The thing about fascism that's nice is if you just decide, okay, fuck this part of a society. We're not putting any resources to that. You can throw a lot of resources to other aspects of society and genuinely improve lives. It's just the society that you choose to ostracize tends to suffer unimaginably, and that's fundamentally wrong. So, like, the argument you'll hear from people, and it's a stupid argument, but the idea you'll hear from people is, yes, Hitler was evil, but, and you can stop right there, but lots of good things happened for Germany before the war while he was in power. And that's ignoring historical context, mostly that the good things that happened were put on the books to try to get Germany out of the Depression, but it's neither here nor there. It's the underlying idea of the argument, because even that being the case, yeah, if you just stop, like, if you can just cut out services or having to deal with a certain percentage of the population, you can just get shit done. But it's at what cost, right? So to play with this idea, which, I mean, it's an idea a lot of people talk about now with so-called economic anxiety, like the coal mining country and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, it sucks that people in those communities have lost their jobs and their livelihood. There's no getting around that. It fucking sucks. Being out of work is not good, particularly in a capitalist country that just doesn't give a fuck. But there's like, there are other industries to move into. You don't have to protect a certain industry that's causing significant problems environmentally. God, the reason this shit is so hard to talk about is there's a million facets to everything, and everyone wants nice, concise, clear answers, and there's just none. It's just a fucking knot, man. Everyone wants to be Alexander and just come in and slice the Gordian knot, and it's just like, no, it doesn't work like that. You gotta fucking deal with the whole thing. All right, so the idea of economic anxiety in the flyover states. Yeah, sure, if we just ostracize the entire population and don't deal with it, yeah, we can probably help those people out. It'll free up a lot of resources to help those people out, but there's got to be a better way to do it, right? Without causing, irreparable damage to families just because they're brown families. So, like, it's definitely playing with something, though. It's definitely playing with the idea of, like, it's not that these people are bad people or anything because they enjoyed the change that came under a rule that was specifically tailored to benefit them. It's that they're still benefiting from injustice, which makes it an injustice. The example I kind of go to about this stuff is, say that your family is considerably wealthy, and you're doing all right, and you're a kid, you're like 16 years old or whatever. And then one day the police come and arrest your father, who's the main source of income for the family, and you find out that he's been robbing banks or embezzling or some shit. I mean, yeah, it's not good, but, like, that doesn't make you an awful person for being born under him, for living with him in those circumstances, even though you were living off stolen property, right? You didn't have necessarily the context to know that. But simultaneously, that means once that information comes to light, you can't continue to live at that same status. And that might suck for you, but other people's livelihood has been stolen for you to experience that level of, that's the word I want here, privilege. And so this is the kind of thing I think about. It's a fucking mess. Society. Just scrap the whole thing. Start over. So yeah, Coates, like the fact that Coates brings these ideas up, and he's very intentionally playing with these ideas and working a story around them. The fact that Coates brings these ideas up makes this an intriguing story, but I've got to be completely honest here. I'm not wholly invested in the story is my thing. I'm not necessarily invested on his take of Captain America. To me, what I see here is Coates writing Captain America as someone who is questioning the foundation of their patriotism and, you know, just general moral philosophy. And is questioning that against circumstances that are mirroring, exaggerating real life circumstances. And what I think it comes down to is in 2018, patriotism is old hat. Patriotism is out of fashion, deservedly so, just like fucking powdered wigs. And that's a fucking bombshell to drop for some people. That's a really sickening idea. And I mean, the right like worships patriotism like it's a damn cult in this country, and the left has to begrudgingly, try to do backflips and play Twister to justify patriotism. The analogy I often hear is the right thinks America's the greatest country on earth because it just is. Everything about it is great. And the left thinks America's the greatest country on earth because despite its problems, it's working toward that. And one of those ideas is delusional, and the other is in denial. So yeah, that's kind of what I tend to think toward as far as his characterization of Cap here. Anyway, some cool action drawn against Nuke, Cap and T'Challa and Okoye fighting these armies of nukes is pretty cool. So I like that. It looks good, no lie. We get some, use of T'Challa's a bit more brutal compared to Cap, which is an interesting way to juxtapose the two of them. I thought that was pretty good. I don't know, just an okay one. I enjoyed the art. It wasn't, jaw-dropping or anything to me. Then something happens with Agent Carter that bookended the issue. We'll see. I mean, honestly, I've certainly read worse Captain America, cough, cough, Nick Spencer, drop hint. But I've also read better at this point. Whew. How's the comments section after that bombshell? McPick says, yeah, I agree. Society does suck considering how it came to be. Zero Fan Production says, let me ask you a question. It's completely off topic, but does the Matt Wagner Zorro use the main characters from the Disney series? Yeah, kind of. Jake Carlson, R.I.P. American politics. Yeah. Bob Kelton says, honestly, I think patriotism is good, not nationalism. But I think if more people were interested in bettering Mexico, we wouldn't have so much crap going on. I mean, that's fair. That's a fair idea. The idea of wanting to be involved in your community is definitely powerful. I just feel that I feel American brand patriotism is, like I said, it's either delusional or in denial. Let's see here. Delusional was the one. What was the other? In denial. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Okay. R.I.P. America's credibility. Yeah. I mean, that's old comic reviewer on the internet taking down American politics. I guess it's over. Don't even bother confirming Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, now that I've said my piece, the whole thing collapses, right? All right. Let's go ahead and move on and talk about Predator Hunters Volume 2, a book that will have absolutely no political implications. Where's this take place in again? Oh, yeah, shit, Afghanistan. Right. Okay, so the first issue I was a little lukewarm on, and I definitely had a criticism about the way in which it decided to portray the jihadist Taliban. This issue, let's see, who is it? Chris Warner. I'm digging it. Chris Warner's writing is reasonably fair. There might still be a pinch of American stereotypical bullshit in here, but he's shown enough humanity from other Afghani people that I'm starting to get a real feel for his vision in setting this in Afghanistan. Let's see here. So I really like the opening here, and I'll say most of this issue not very action heavy. This is mainly just a building the plot issue, which for a 4-issue series I feel is a good choice. It is a strange world we live in, is it not? Throughout history, my people have defeated army after army, nation after nation, and yet we cannot defeat our own divisions. We are ever united against our enemies, yet ever divided against ourselves. Half our lives in the day, half at night. It is a shame we cannot see in the darkness. Sometimes I feel that Afghanistan is more a punishment than a nation. Which is why it is strange that these powerful nations keep coming back again and again, only to crash upon the rocks. America, Russia, the British, Alexander. Afghanistan has nothing. The nations that come here have everything. But they leave with nothing, which is all we have to offer. Oh, wow, that's a great opening. And the fact that it's set over these jihadists working their way toward the Predator's cave and being taken out by it is fucking incredible. That is super interesting. Just the Predator murdering the shit out of some, I believe they're specifically called them Taliban. Holy shit. And that's the backdrop to it, is this guy talking about the fucking historical quagmire that is Afghanistan. Man, that is a fantastic fantastic way to open the book. And like I love the this is the image of just a rusted out tank in the middle of the desert, but they leave with nothing, which is all we have to offer. Oh my God, that is good. I really, really, really like that. So for those that don't know, he name drops here. America, Russia, the British, Alexander. He forgot Genghis Khan. But yes, literally all of those empires have tried at different points, including Alexander the Great's empire, have tried at different points in history to conquer Afghanistan, and all of them fucking lost. And just, wow. So what do we know about the Predator, right? This I fucking love comics. We can talk about the history of a nation and put it in the context of a fucking invading alien species. What do we know about the Predator? They like the heat, and they seek out areas of high combat. What better place could it possibly go to than Afghanistan? Not just in the modern day, ever. Oh man, that's good. So yeah, this book is pretty heavily politically tinged as well. Philip Kelton says, I mean, in the mind of the Predator, it's like, man, I love this place. A lot of hot weather, lots of people to hurt. Yeah. And I mean, that's even brought up by this this boy who's part of this tribe that the team goes to try to like get information on the Predator or whatever. The people of the village think the jinn protects them, that they are safe, but they are not. Where was the jinn when the jihadi killed villagers who cooperated with the Americans? Where was the jinn when my parents were murdered? Whatever kills the jihadi does not kill to protect the village. It kills because it wants to. Yeah, that's the Predator right there. That's pretty good. The people are apparently have a rumor that it's a genie that killed the Predator, or killed the jihadis. But yeah, so it's just like, there's some gorgeous silent Predator art in this too that I really like. Of it going to this cave that it just like stole from the Taliban. And it's just good. It's where it's keeping its trophies and shit. It's perfect. That is so the Predator. So yeah, the team, the Predator hunters, are in Afghanistan in this village trying to get information on where the Predator might be hiding out. And the people are completely uninterested in cooperating with them, except for one little boy who is a amputee due to an incident with a landmine. And his parents were his father was a translator for the Americans, but both his parents are now dead in a mortar attack. So anyway, the kid offers to help them, but he wants to go to Canada because they have good health care. And I really like part of me was worried in the first issue that anytime I see Middle Eastern terrorist as bad guy, I get like, is this thought through, or is this doing it because that's just the image we have in our head? It's not that it's not a thing that exists. It's like, is it a purposeful choice, or is it a writer's go-to? This kind of stuff here tells me that it's not the writer's go-to. One of the team members, I'm sorry, kid. I wish I could help. Perhaps you can. Look, kid, I can't do what I think you want me to do. There's no way I can take you to America. America? I wish you go to Canada where they have good health care. Little jabs like that kind of gives me a little more respect for the book. Add that with the context of the historical quagmire of Afghanistan, you start to really get to my liking in this book. So yeah, the kid who knows the mountainside offers to help the team if they get him to Canada, and they agree to do it. But meanwhile, it looks like an American Black Ops team is closing in on the Predator, and the team leader reveals the other reason she wants to get to the Predator besides just to kill it. Apparently, her family, if you read Volume 1, her family has a history of killing predators. And they're some of the first lineage to be successful at it. And they built their wealth on selling small portions of the Predator's technology in a non-military capacity, so that they did not what's the word I want here? Selling bits of the technology in a small military capacity so that they did not increase warfare. They just built up their own wealth. In order to go and kill more predators. So they're very much like the predators in that sense. But the idea here that now they also treat it as a side mission to make people not make sure militaries don't get a hold of predator technology so that they can't use it for military applications. I thought that was a pretty cool twist to it. Made it feel a lot smarter. So anyways, yeah, this issue, not a lot of action. Really, we only get the one action scene right at the beginning of the Predator murdering the fuck out of some Taliban. Really great, brutal deaths. I quite like that about it. And then it's just all plot and character work, and that was a good choice. This issue built a lot of the sense of what's going on. As always with these miniseries, I kind of scratch my head about the issue number, because this is the halfway point. It's issue 2 of 4, and I do think this was a good choice because it definitely got me really invested in the characters and the story again, in a way I don't feel like issue 1 necessarily did. But I mean, we're halfway through and we haven't even had the team make first contact with the Predator. He's still lurking in the distance as far as they're concerned. And so that's a little worrisome. I always feel like a lot of these miniseries wrap up way too fast, but who knows? Who knows? Oh, man. Go ahead and move on to the Sandman universe, The Dreaming, number 1. Neil Gaiman not writing Sandman is an interesting little world here. So I've long since given up trying to explain the plot of anything Sandman related. So I've just got to assume you've read it, and I'm going to talk about certain things. What's her name? I feel stupid now. Damn it. I can never remember this shit. Dora. Okay. So the situation with Dora here is particularly interesting in exactly what her place in the story is. And I'm really trying my best to remember if there was anyone like her in the initial Sandman run, and nothing's coming to mind for me. So she's got this whole ability to really circumvent anything that Daniel has set up. And that's causing a lot of problems with the Dreaming in the way it builds to this demon character. And I thought that was really, really interesting, the way he was written in regards to her and how that subverted things. Like, I really like that moment when he's introduced and it looks like she's gotten in over her head. And then the next time you see them, they're fucking. And they've clearly got an established relationship of having done this for quite some time. And it's like, oh, so she's really unique here, and she's causing a lot of trouble for the Dreaming, and just the way in which she's drawn, where she'll have these little moments of becoming very monstrous, is really, really interesting to me, and I start to wonder what the context for that is. The problems in the Dreaming continuing with this demon Baron entering the Dreaming is really interesting, and honestly, I'm surprised by the level of action in a Sandman comic. It's totally appropriate for the story. It's just I was not expecting that. So I found that interesting. But then I really like this twist where it looks like Daniel's shown up in the helm to fight the demon, and that causes him to run away. And then it turns out to just be Lucien, and it looks like indeed Daniel has quit. So I'm curious how that's going to continue in regards to Lucien just trying to manage the Dreaming without Daniel there. And then just like, it's just, there's no end to the problems, it would seem. And that's getting really interesting. So between, Dora, like, clearly having much more power and ability in the Dreaming than anyone else, and being such a negative influence on it with no reverence to Daniel, and then he's not even there to be a check to her, is really interesting. Lucien trying to balance with all these things and all these different crises popping up in the Dreaming is really interesting, particularly because he seems lost. He keeps losing track of thought and stuff. So I'm really curious what the character arc there is. I'm wondering if his ability is tied to whether or not Daniel's there, or if it's just him being overwhelmed in the moment. So that's intriguing. Yeah, I am curious to see how this goes and continues on. They've definitely grabbed my interest, and they seem to be playing with the mystery. I will say I worry they might be juggling too many plot elements at once. But we'll see. It's comics can be a slow burn. Smash Time is here and says, "What's up? Love your streams." Thank you, Smash Time. I'm glad you love my streams. I love having you here. And what is up is we're reviewing comics. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and move on and talk about SuperSons, Adventures of the SuperSons, rather. Number 2. So my thing with Tomasi has been, I think he does character really, really well, and he has a fantastic dynamic between the boys. Plotting, he's usually pretty weak on. Or it's just clearly his, let me put it this way. Plotting is clearly his secondary concern when writing, in my opinion. I think that's fair to say. All right. So this issue was an interesting move on his part, because the boys have hardly any interaction here, because Damien's incapacitated the whole time, save a handful of lines, and John is just dealing with the bad guys for the whole issue. And this issue is mainly about the bad guys' plot. And so what I really respect about it is I feel like the story told here would usually take up about 2, maybe 2.5 issues in a lot of other series right now, the way comics are written. The Junior Legion of Doom is very efficient here. They've already got Damian under wraps. They get control of John, force him to go to the Fortress of Solitude, and steal this cube device thing, hypercube, I think they call it, MacGuffin device that they need. And then begin to go back to their world. We also get their backstory in that these kids are actually a race of aliens who have grown up watching the exploits of Earth, and they're superheroes. And the kid leading this Junior Legion of Doom is like kind of twisted because he sees the villains as the true heroes, and has created the Legion of Doom, this Junior Legion of Doom himself. So that's really interesting. But what's also kind of cool here is there's subterfuge in the ranks in a way that you wouldn't expect, and that the Junior Joker here is not actually super tight with them, and we get his backstory in the issue. So there's just a lot of balls being juggled in the air here. But they're being used in such a way that like a lot's getting done in the issue. A lot of legwork has happened in this issue without it, and it's been done without a lot of interaction between our protagonists, which I'm sure we'll get in the next issue. A lot of legwork's been done, without a lot of interaction between the protagonists, and that's the main selling point for the book. But I'm still really excited to read the next issue. He gives a cliffhanger here that, spoiler alert, is absolutely fantastic, and he leads up to it just perfectly. So Damian's fucking with the gold kryptonite that was used to steal all of John's powers so he can try to reverse it and get them back. Gold synthetic kryptonite, I should say. So he's fucking with it, trying to help John. John's saying, oh, it hurts so bad, as red and blue beams come out of his eyes. Meanwhile, the Junior Legion of Doom is coming to dispose of the boys, since now they're done with them. Lex Jr. saying, you take out the small one, I'll deal with the Kryptonian. John says, I'm being ripped in two. And then the shaggy teen opens the bay doors and goes, how about you step aside and I'll handle them? Both. Superboy Red, Superboy Blue, I am here for this shit. Yes. Oh, that is so good. Oh, man. Oh, and like, I love the who are you? And I love Damian here. He's so oblivious because he's just fucking with the kryptonite. It's like, the kryptonite turned red. Any idea what that does? Oh my god. Oh my god, I'm so happy with that. Oh. I'm so hyped for the next issue. There's so much that got done here. We got the MacGuffin out of the way. We got the backstory of the villains figured out and the dynamics between them pretty firmly settled. We got the subterfuge within the team, and we've got this red kryptonite, red Superboy, blue Superboy thing going on. Man, that is great. That is so utterly fantastic. I'm I am so here for this kind of stuff. Like, that's kind of the charm of this book that has made it so enjoyable, is it feels very much like a throwback to the Silver Age kind of craziness. Like we did Superman Red, Superman Blue again in the 90s with Electric Superman, and it was like it just felt really disingenuous and kind of cash grabby because of the way that comics were sold at that point in time. At least to me it did. And this, I don't know, this feels so fun and enjoyable. This feels like what I hear a lot of people talk about with comics. Like I have comics that I like to read that are fun to read, but mostly when I read comics, it's more about like interesting character-based storytelling and stuff. This feels like that mixed with the crazy anything can happen kind of Silver Age plotting. And that's really, really strong stuff. So while I do think Tomasi's usually on the weaker side when it comes to the plotting side of his writing, here he's able to touch on some stuff that is just really working because he's getting to play with some toys that everyone else is kind of afraid to touch in this day and age, it seems. And so that makes this feel really, really fresh and enjoyable in a really interesting way. 2 issues in, and I'm in love with this series all over again. Tomasi just, maybe he's writing it just for me. I don't know. It's super, super enjoyable stuff. Oh man, Superboy Red, Superboy Blue. That is so exciting. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Talk about Batman number 54, written by Tom King with art by Matt Wagner. Let's get the controversy out of the way with this issue to begin with. So here we have a story that is all about Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson. And so is about the relationship between father and son to a varying level of degrees. Matt Wagner is a writer-artist in the comic book community who's really made a name for himself. He's both a great artist and a great writer, which is a rarer combination than it should be. But Matt Wagner, when he draws, likes to work with his son as the colorist. And so when the book was initially contracted out and stuff, Matt Wagner's son was signed on to do the coloring. But when he started sending pages to DC, they didn't like his style of coloring because it didn't match their house style. And so they dropped Matt Wagner's son from the book, but wanted to keep Matt Wagner on as the artist for the issues. And I just don't like that. I mean, the whole story is about the importance of the relationship between father and son. The idea of dropping this guy's kid from the book it's just insulting. Come on, focus camera. It's just insulting. And it's just sad because it makes you think about what it could be. Let me look at who's credited as the colorist. Tomu Mori is the colorist here. And I don't want to give the impression that he didn't do a good job. Coloring is one of those things in comics where I feel bad when I talk about it because I tend to only notice it when it's bad or great. I don't think the industry gives enough credit to colorists. Jay Carlson's informing me that it's maybe a woman that's the colorist. And Philip Kelton's in the comments saying, Ian, companies do not believe on the ideas that their stories tell. Yeah, I know, I'm well aware, but it's just it's heartbreaking and kind of inexcusable. I don't know. I'm pretty disappointed in that. So I don't know. Like, I bought the issue. I wasn't going to not buy the issue. I love Tom King's run. I'm going to keep reading Tom King's run. I'm reading it for Tom King. I'm not reading it for Matt Wagner or for Matt Wagner's son. End of the day. I'm still allowed to be disappointed in DC. I still feel that they should make this right, and that it was a dick move, and I'll call them on it. That's what I'm left with. I know that's not much of a position because they can go, oh, well, we still got your fucking money, so whatever. But I'm disappointed in them for that. Issue itself, though, is really, really good. It does a lot of flashback and forwards that I found really interesting. So we start off with just this, it's just such a haunting image of the Flying Grayson's poster and the cut rope, or, well, acid burnt rope of the trapeze that killed the Graysons. And you just hear, oh God, the audience reacting to that moment. And there's a lot of really great word balloons. They'll call someone. Should we call someone? No. That poor boy. Is there a doctor? Someone's a doctor. Why is the boy? It's an act. This is part of it. What happened? I don't understand. Someone get the boy. Someone help that boy. And then the last panel of that page is just Dick Grayson as Nightwing in the modern day. Come on, you don't sue like at all? And he's just making fun of Crazy Quilt. There's this whole conversation about what Crazy Quilt does, and no, it's nothing to do with suing, unless I guess you count like DC superhero girls. Crazy Quilt uses a quilt of colors to mind control people, apparently. Because, yeah. So it's, just Dick making fun of Crazy Quilt. But that's how this whole issue works. It's just these flashback, flash forward of what Bruce and Dick's relationship was like back then versus what it's like now. And so I could talk about this scene by scene because I legitimately enjoy all of these scenes. And it's just stuff that Tom King's really, really good at, is just showing you these incredibly human moments and then putting it in the capes and tights context. Dick Grayson wakes up from a nightmare, reliving the death of his parents. Bruce rushes into the room and hugs him, telling him it'll be all right. You're with me now. I've got you. Flash forward to Dick giving Bruce a hug in the modern day. Trying to use humor to disarm him and make him feel better after being left by Catwoman. And it's just scene after scene like that of just flashing back and forward between Dick Grayson's upbringing versus how he is now. And it's interesting to see how these moments have shaped and formed him into the man he is today. Like, he's someone that dealt with so much tragedy that now he overcompensates almost to try to see nothing but humor in things. And that's, it's just really, really good stuff. I really like the way that Tom King has diagnosed this character. And I mean, obviously he wrote Grayson already, or co-wrote it with Seeley. So it's interesting to see him go back and reestablish his interpretation of this character, and do so by juxtaposing him with his younger self, and indeed juxtaposing the relationship between Bruce and Dick and how it's changed over the years. Really, really great stuff here. And again, it's just so human. There's no big monster at the end of the day or anything. It's just them hanging out, and I love some of the stuff we see in this. Dick Grayson bouncing his baton 37 times across the Batcave. It's really cool. Really, really enjoy it. Just really solid issue. There's a whole thing about cucumber sandwiches running through it too that I quite liked. Really solid, really, really good issue. King always delivers me something. Really, really enjoyed it. Oh, man. Whew. It's a lot of talking, guys. Let's go ahead and move on to the last single issue of the week. And that is Cosmic Ghost Rider number 3. This book is literally insane. This book is absolutely fucking insane. It's ridiculous, and I love it. So Frank Castle, the Cosmic Ghost Rider, wants to raise Thanos on his own to teach him that killing is wrong. But it's Frank Castle. There's only one thing he's good at. And so showing up on the moment of that awful decision are the timeline that he has now created's Guardians of the Galaxy. So let's break down who this team is. They thankfully tell us everything we need to know about who this team is. We got Cable, Captain Marvel, Kamala Khan, but in the future and all grown up now with an added shield. Juggerduck, a duck named Howard in possession of the gem of Kryatok, ducking unstoppable. And Jubilee, enough said. So that's the team of the future Guardians of the Galaxy. They're dead literally on the next page. Galactus kills all of them except for Cable literally on the next page. So this cover would seem like a total bullshit sell, but it's not. It's just not, and it's amazing. So Galactus kills the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then wants to kill baby Thanos for killing him in the future. No one shall deny Galactus's vengeance for killing Galactus. Oh. Meanwhile, Cable, who now has to deal with this Galactus problem, decides to slide by one and then briefly leaves, leaving Frank Castle confused, reappearing even gianter than Galactus, shrinking him down and putting him in a gun, firing him off into the horizon. See, what Cable does, this timeline's version of Cable, is he goes back to his timeline and spends 20 years or so perfecting the perfect solution to take care of a problem. So yeah. Then Ghost Rider's about to fight him, but Cable says, hold that thought, slide by one, and comes back with a new team of Guardians of the Galaxy who are now all cosmic beings, ready to take on Cosmic Ghost Rider. So I recognize the Thing and some kind of future version of Gambit. Anyone got any guesses for who these background characters are? Nuck and Futz here. I think that's Eternity. Not sure who that is or who's in the mech, but it really doesn't matter. Galactus, or not Galactus, Cable's battle cry is Guardians, kill that baby. And they all start rushing after Cosmic Ghost Rider to kill baby Thanos. This pisses Frank Castle off enough that he realizes, all right, I'm going to hand baby Thanos over to Uatu the Watcher while I go kill everybody. And just make sure he doesn't watch. And so then we just get pages of Cosmic Ghost Rider, Frank Castle, murdering these Guardians of the Galaxy teams that Cable keeps coming up with. Like, so he'll start murdering the team. Cable will realize his plan didn't work, and he'll slide by 1, slide by 10, slide by whatever, to come back with another team of superheroes to fight Cosmic Ghost Rider. And it just keeps tossing them, and it's brutal as shit. Look at that. Look at Sabretooth cut in half with Ghost Rider's chains. Moon Knight's been decapitated. Looks like that's Iron Man in the background there getting decapitated. Rogue sliced in half horizontally. Mr. Fantastic punctured with chains. I think he's ripped out Beta Ray Bill's intestines. And might be taking the hammer. Fucking Daredevil's there. What the hell is Daredevil gonna do? Cable seems to be getting desperate here. And then it just keeps going. It's so ridiculous. Just every superhero in the Marvel Universe versus Cosmic Ghost Rider is knucking butts, man. Oh, this is too much to read. Oh, I really, really enjoy it. It's really stupid fun. And of course, watching all of this death and destruction is baby Thanos, even though he's not supposed to be. Oh. At one point, Cable's plan finally starts to work, and Cosmic Ghost Rider is put down, but this pisses off baby Thanos enough that he breaks free of Uatu, and when Frank Castle regains consciousness 15 minutes later, is covered in blood and sees baby Thanos destroying Cable with his own detached arm. Damn it, Thanos, what the hell did I tell you? No murder. That's right. No murders. And then just as Cable's going to try to slide time travel once again, Ghost Rider shoots the shit out of him and tries just to convince him not to do it anymore. But before they can really hash that conversation out, Cable's head explodes, and Cosmic Ghost Rider looks over and sees Thanos in a Punisher costume. Saying, "Hey, Dad, sorry I'm late." And I just love that this whole fucking thing. Everyone's trying to tell him, "You don't understand, Frank. The Thanos you raise, you think you know, but you don't. He's worse. Oh, God, he's so much worse. Please, Frank, you have to." It's just ludicrous. Like Thanos in a Punisher outfit with the fucking white gloves. Oh, it's got the white gloves. Oh my God. This is so stupid fun. This is just the definition of stupid fun. Oh my God. I'm in love with how stupid fun this is. It's pretty stupid, and it's pretty fun. It's a great, just pure joy, mindless entertainment kind of comic. Who drew this? Dylan Burnett. got to draw a Thanos in a Punisher t-shirt. Man, you know, like those explained channels on YouTube, the ones that go like, this is what comics are like, because no one can go buy the issue for $4. Which understandably that's a lot for a comic book, but still. I am going to corner the market on the Explained channel. On the Explained. So here's Punisher Thanos Explained. You see in the pages of Cosmic Ghost Rider #3, Cosmic Ghost Rider, who's actually Frank Castle with the Power Cosmic and the Ghost Rider Spirit Energy, Hellfire Spirit Energy, decided to try to raise Thanos from childhood to make him a better person. But Frank Castle is a terrible person, and so that didn't go well. So Frank Castle had to fight all these Guardians of the Galaxy teams from the timeline he created in which he was raising baby Thanos, and in which he made it so much worse, to the point where Thanos now sees Frank Castle as a father figure and has taken in his legacy, wearing the Punisher shirt. So there you go. That's Punisher Thanos Explained in the pages of Cosmic Ghost Rider #3. Go buy it. It's insane fun. That's the clip. That'll probably end up being one of my most viewed videos just based on the thumbnail. And it's sad because you don't need things explained to you. Just go buy the book. You can't afford the book? Most libraries carry comics. I promise. And if they don't, ask. All right. Let's go ahead and move on and talk about DC Nation #4. Okay, so this is something that I tune in and out of with varying degrees of interest. 3 out of the 4 things teased on the cover are all things I am incredibly excited for. So obviously we got Heroes in Crisis, which is terrible marketing. But then we got G. Willow Wilson's Wonder Woman is going to be talked about in here, and Grant Morrison's Green Lantern. So yeah, very excited to have to pick this up. We start off with some of the stuff for Heroes in Crisis that I wanted to talk about and I found intriguing. What I liked about what they show here is this breakdown of psychological analysis of the Trinity, as well as Harley Quinn and Booster Gold. Stuff like that is super interesting. I remember I took a couple psych courses in college, and my favorite assignment in intro was when you had to do a psychological profile of a character, of a fictional character. And this was back in the day when I was really into forums and stuff. So I was always posting on different forum sites. And so that, like, I created like a whole thread of psychological analysis of Batman characters based on the DSM. So I was like, I'm really into that stuff. It can be super fun to do. And so here I found it really, really interesting. So I really like all their profiles of the characters from a psychological perspective. Little annoyed about Wonder Woman's, but you got to deal with continuity. So you got to deal with continuity and talk about her brother. What can you do? The thing that annoyed the hell out of me was the last page of this, where they break down all the one of these characters will die. Marketing. God, they've just been awful about marketing this on that term. Like, Okay, Dan Didio is not someone I particularly care for. Most of the time when I hear him talk, I get really annoyed. But man, it was like he makes a really good point here, but then I feel like this right here was his idea to market it. Tom King and Clay Mann's Heroes in Crisis is a kind of story that we haven't really explored in depth before, at least across the DCU. For the first time, Tom and Clay show us not just the physical scars of being a hero in the DC universe, but also the emotional toll and its effects on our characters. Our heroes have the same human problems we all do, and they try to put them aside to be superhuman. But these are people, and we have to show their humanity by telling stories like this. Yes! That's super interesting. Like, that should be the selling point. Like, could you just imagine if Heroes in Crisis, instead of being marketed on a whodunit, which one of your favorite characters will die, what if it were marketed on super or not, he's still a man? What if it were marketed on, the world's greatest detective? The pressure that creates. What if it were marketed on Wonder Woman? The toll. Like, just, God, that is so much more interesting. But instead we get like this breakdown with odds of which character will die. The smart odds are apparently on Roy Harper, followed by Booster Gold. It's not going to be them. That's too obvious. Let's see here. The biggest odds are on the craziest odds are on Harley Quinn at 75-1 and Cyborg at 50-1. Then there's Green Lantern and Tim Drake kind of taking up the middle there. I don't fucking know. It's the dumbest shit. It's the dumbest shit to try to market it like this. Just roll my fucking eyes. I don't really have much interest in Teen Titans. I just really want to give a shout out to the artist here because this is a really, really solid piece. I really, really enjoyed this piece. I just turned the page and I was like, wow. That's art by Alex Garner, and I was just really, really impressed with that. That's really great render work there. So much detail. Really, really like that. That was cool. Also, in this, we get into Going Green, which is an interview with Liam Sharp and Grant Morrison about the Green Lantern. And man, I am excited for this book. I cannot tell you how excited I am. So I'm not going to read the whole interview or anything. I just want to find this one line that makes me like really happy and really, really into it. Okay. If people are really into spotting Easter eggs, there's dozens of them. Every kind of character you see on the Gambling Planet in issue 1 relates back to some other issue or appearance. So yeah, Grant Morrison's talked about this a little bit, how he's literally gone back and read every Hal Jordan comic for writing this. And so he wants to revisit races of alien species that have been created for like one issue of one story back in like the 70s or the 60s or even further back. Yeah, he just wants to like bring those aliens and those species back. If nothing else, just in the background art. There will be aliens that in the DC Universe's galaxy that we haven't seen in years. That's great. I love that. That's really good. They also talk about how they see Hal Jordan as kind of the 70s American cinematic hero, a Paul Newman type, which, holy shit, talk about retro casting. Is anyone really good at Photoshop? Can someone please Photoshop me Paul Newman as Hal Jordan? I know that's probably going to be a bitch and a half, but I'm going to get really specific here. Paul Newman as Hal Jordan, looking good, but in a costume that would be conceivably possible to make in the 60s, 70s. Is that too much to ask for? I feel like that's a lot to ask for, but man, I am all over that. Oh, that'd be so perfect. Yeah, it's really cool. So I really like that. That was a great interview. I do recommend reading that. Just tons of great stuff in there. Liam Sharp talking about his work on here. Liam Sharp is an incredible, detail-rich artist. And just hearing Morrison talk about some of the stuff and Sharp talk about it with him is just getting me really, really excited. I'm deliberately pushing Liam. He's a great artist, so I can tell him to draw almost anything and say, yeah, go look at this Roger Dean book from the 1970s and make a landscape that's kind of like that, meets Jerry Anderson, meets, Sharp. There's issue 2, that sci-fi city, that was like, I've got to make this count. Morrison, yeah, the best city. The best sci-fi city ever in a comic. I think you win that prize. And then you just get the smallest little preview of it. And I'm like, holy fuck. So yeah, I'm very, 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 very excited for this run. Right now it's going to be Morrison and Sharp for the first 12 issues guaranteed. Morrison has ideas for a season 2, a second 12 issue run. Though it's unclear if Sharp would be able to continue on at that point or if that sales will justify it. But man, am I excited for that. All right. We got DC Metal Dark Universe versions of some of DC's craziest stuff in comics history. And I did get a laugh out of that. So just this page was great. I think my favorite is Red Ant Superman. That's what he looks like in the Dark Universe. That's what he looked like in the classic Silver Age comics right above him. So that was pretty good. And then just a really short interview with G. Willow Wilson about her approach to Wonder Woman. And I'm really excited for that as well. Just one quote from this that I want to talk about. When I go back and look at some of the very oldest Wonder Woman comics, the ones from the late 1940s, I can see real resonance and similarities to many of the discussions that we're having as a culture today, Wilson points out. I think that Wonder Woman has, at this point, come full circle because many of the pressing issues that we were facing in the aftermath of World War II are very much back in our national conversation. Wilson observes that in the late 80s and early 90s, Wonder Woman stories were themed more as an escapist high fantasy, reflecting a desire for something apolitical. And now, Wilson says, it seems that she's going back to her origins, in which she was quite insistent about her vision for what she thinks the world should look like. Yeah. Yeah. The fact that writers have tried to run away from Wonder Woman's politics is the reason she's seen as one of the weaker characters in the Trinity. Not weaker physically, not weaker in importance, but weaker on ability to write, weaker on sales, as people are afraid to write her politics. And her politics are a big part of the character. So That's very exciting. No preview on the art for the run. I forget if they've announced the artist on the book. They don't mention it here, I don't believe. So, yeah. Still very excited for that. G. Will Wilson is not a writer I've followed or read anything from before, but I've seen her talk, and I've seen little bits and pieces of her writing, and I think she's got, if nothing else, the right mindset to write Wonder Woman. Yeah. Alrighty. That'll do it for this one. Let's see here. Man, girl, Lobo is hot. Good for you, Philip Kelton. You chase your dreams. I could, but don't have time right now to Photoshop Paul Newman. Come on, do it. Philip Kelton, Photoshop Paul Newman for me as Hal Jordan with those stipulations. I already want to make Batman singing to the Hulk. Come on, man. Paul Newman is Green Lantern. Please. Akuma Ranger says the energy constructs in a Green Lantern film in the 60s/70s would be rotoscope. Yeah, probably. If they wouldn't just physically make props, right? Like you could probably... They had plastics and stuff. You could probably have made like a green hammer as a physical prop. It's just how would they get it into the scene is the question. You probably couldn't have done a Green Lantern film back in the 60s or 70s and have it be any kind of good as far as like effects wise, but I'd watch it. Fuck it. Oh man. All right, I'm gonna finish my Coke real quick and then we'll get into Hellboy. Again, can someone please type Mike Mignola's name in the live chat phonetically so I don't fuck it up? Mignola. I'm getting two answers. I'm getting Mignola and Mignola. Mignola and Mignola. Mignola is the way I feel like I've heard other people say it. Am I doing that right? I don't know why I have so much trouble with his name. It just doesn't want to come out my mouth. Ah, man. Cocaine's a hell of a drug. Alrighty. Well, no one's typing. I'm going to go with Mignola. I've heard Mignola a lot, so I'm going to go with that. All right. Let's go ahead and go on and do trade talk. What the fuck? Go away. Why is that open? Weird. All right. Sorry, computer trouble. Trade talk time. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Trade Talk. This week, we have Hellboy Volume 1, Seeds of Destruction, written and drawn by Mike Mignola. I'm going to apologize in advance. For some reason, I have a really hard time saying Mike Mignola. I don't know why. It's a tongue twister for me. So yeah, Seeds of Destruction is the original Hellboy series that kind of launched the character. This trade collects the two short stories that kind of marketed and got Hellboy's name out there back in the mid 90s, or early 90s, 93. So we get those in the back. My opinion is they should have been up in the front, but I understand why they are where they are. Yes, we get the sense of Hellboy as this monster fighting kind of guy. Very, I guess Van Helsing type, as far as what Van Helsing has become more than what he originally was. Just all kinds of craziness, Nazis, gorillas, slaves, dog gods, dog god, kaiju monsters, shit like that. Was kind of as how Hellboy was pitched. But then there's the actual series. Now, Mignola is a big Lovecraft fan. for Jack Kirby, H.P. Lovecraft, and my lovely wife Christine, and the amazing Elmer Newton. So yeah, right off the way, dedicated it among others to H.P. Lovecraft and Jack Kirby. So Mignola is obviously a big fan of comics and a big fan of Lovecraft, and the Lovecraftian influence is definitely felt in his work. As we start the official series off with a field report, which is just a very Lovecraft way to do things. We've been here for 2 days now, and it isn't getting any better. Yeah, it screams Lovecraft. As a Nazi science group, whatever, performs a ritual to try to bring about the apocalypse, because we're in the closing days of World War II, and Hitler is enacting doomsday plans, kind of burn the world down if you can't rule it kind of thing. And that doomsday plan is successful because HellBoy is brought into the world. But he's brought into the world under the care of the Americans and is raised working with the BPRD. So we got 50 years later, and HellBoy is visiting the man who discovered him, who he sees as a father. And he's asking him about a recent trip that he just returned from the Arctic, and is not sure what happened to him there because he seems to have gone maybe a little crazy. But before they can really get to the bottom of the mess, he's killed. He dies really, really early, and was killed by this frog-like monster that HellBoy has to fight. So it's very disappointing, clearly. And yeah, so the mystery begins. Where did this monster come from? What did his father see in the Arctic? And then there's the underlying thing of who were the members of the Nazis, the Nazi group that did the ceremony to create HellBoy. And then it continues to be very Lovecrafty. They go to a house on the water and all this shit. And the plot kind of develops. Basically, the Arctic expedition discovered Rasputin, who's really an old mystic wizard and had communed with a Cthulhu-like being and was helping it to destroy the world, and wanted HellBoy there as a servant. And yeah, it's a big, complicated, mythic thing. It works a lot better in story. It really does play well on the page in the moment of reading it. Trying to summarize it and talk about it after the fact does kind of make it sound incomprehensible. It really isn't. I at no point felt like, wait, what's going on? I feel like everything that happens here, all the plot developments, were explained in a really clear and concise way. So let me look here, because I think I said, okay, so Mignola is obviously the creator of HellBoy. It looks like he probably plotted this, and John Byrne did the scripting. So John Byrne probably came in and cleaned up his work a little bit, but it's definitely Mignola behind the story itself, from the sounds of it. Which is to say, there's a lot of really crazy stuff going on. Mignola gives himself excuses to draw some absolutely fantastic imagery of just pure horror and creepiness, and Mignola loves to draw with heavy shadows and stuff. Very, very dynamic, instantly recognizable art style, which is really cool for him. Anyway, the team of Abe Sapien, HellBoy, and Liz is able to defeat Rasputin, destroy the old Lovecraftian god, and escape in the end, which is it's pretty typical way to end a horror monster story. But there are, of course, still the other Nazis that were there the night HellBoy was summoned to Earth, and they remain lingering in the shadows, which sets us up for the next volume, the continuing story. Again, really, really, it's a very atmospheric book. This kind of stuff right here. I love me some silhouettes and shadow play and stuff, and just, God, Rasputin looks so deliciously evil here. I kind of dig it. There's a real sense of just how powerful and scary he is. And what I really like about it is there is a mystery aspect to this, but there's a horror aspect, there's a mystery aspect, but there's also an action aspect. And I feel like a lot of things do horror action, and then there's no sense of mystery or intrigue. You kind of see the monster right away, and that's the end of it. Or they do horror mystery, and you just never get to see the monster or anything. It relies entirely on building suspense, and that can get kind of boring. This manages to really masterfully play with all three of those elements. I never feel like I'm just waiting for something to happen. I'm like, I feel the sense of weird and creepiness that the monstrosities and the ideas the book is playing with. But there's also this underlying building mystery, which does make it feel very Lovecraftian. And so just a lot of stuff in here. Really, really solid work. Really, really beautiful comic right here. I've never read HellBoy before, and so I'd always kind of been interested, and I'm just trying to do a lot more independent, get some independent stuff and some more Marvel stuff. And so I was very, very pleased with this. I thought it was really, really good. So yeah, HellBoy Volume 1, Seeds of Destruction. Would recommend to people. I thought it was a really good read and really interesting, particularly if you're into Lovecraft at all. This is a good thing to pick up. So it just makes me want to rewatch the Ron Perlman movie too. Alrighty. I think that will do it for this episode of Trade Talk. Everyone, thanks very much for watching. Until next time. Bye. And there we have it. Oh, man. Man. What a day. Oh, Philip Kelton is in the comments asking me about Paul Newman's Green Lantern. Okay, so here are my stipulations. One, Paul Newman, 60s, 70s Paul Newman, as Green Lantern, but looking good in a costume that would be conceivable to actually be filmed in the 60s or 70s. That's what I want to Photoshop of Newman as Green Lantern is. Do it. It'll be beautiful. All right. I think that's going to do it for comic reviews, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you had a good time. I will catch y'all on the flip side. Till next time.